my vice. Man up from Mars, he tripping, I put that on guard. I got the digits, but I am not calling. Wizard at night, this be that forum. I'm still stacked with that. Sunshine after that. Still stacked with that. Sunshine after that. So yeah, you know, I had a conversation with her, but it's like the signals is always crossed. I mean, like, I say yes, cause she asked me to say yes. And then she's like, I didn't want you to say yes. I wanted you to understood that a yes was required to answer the question. I was like, what?
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the spot, the Stack to After Hours spot. I am your host, Natalie Cosby, and welcome to the show for Grown Folk Talk. So, as we are continuing on this conversation of rebuilding Black love, tonight we are talking about the economics of love, the three C's. And those three C's were inspired by a interview I did a couple weeks ago with one of our guests tonight, Miss Ann Holson, around the things that make men dateable. And so, as that conversation started to transpire, we also found some emotional three C's when we were talking to Simon last week. So, we're going to kind of talk about what y'all need, how you are choosing, and what makes someone dateable for you, and how does that play out in your relationships and so on and so forth. So y'all get ready, get those cocktails and fingertips loose because we want to hear your questions and comments for tonight's show. And at SAA, we keep it what? Lit and enlightening. Let's bring in Anthea, Miss Sunshine. Where's the fairy dust?
No fairy dust.
No, what ding. I'm gonna give you. Hey, you sleeping at Thorwell.
Lord.
We really do. So, Anthea,
Yes.
you know, when I was having that conversation with Ann and we were talking about the three C's and whatnot, I heard car, credit, career, and crib. I was like, okay, that's somewhat of status and financial flexibility, which makes sense at this age. And then Simon last week, he was just like, but it's also to make sure that you have that, communication, connection, and caring. So where you are now, what
Well,
really
yes.
matters?
I heard those three, the different three C's. And for me, neither six of them guarantee a good man. You can have the crib, the career, the credit, the car. You can be caring. You can be communicative. You can be connecting, which I think those other three C's were. But that doesn't mean that you are a good person. Doesn't necessarily translate to being a good
How
person.
so? If you're not caring, how can you not? So let me ask you, what
You
is
can keep
good
with
for you?
somebody and still be a snake. You still be a liar. You could still do all of
Right.
that and care for somebody.
Right. What is good to you? Like, what is the measure of a man comes up to you? He's good. He may be a good person, right? But he
Yeah.
also may be living with his mama. Does that work for you?
No. So there's got to be boundaries, of course, right? I mean, when we started talking about these three C's, of course, I my assumption was that one of the C's when it comes to crib was a house, a home, and they own their home. But for me, even if they're renting an apartment, because you don't know if they got a divorce, if they're in between homes, you
Right.
don't know what the situation is. But I'll be damned if I'm dating someone in a roommate situation at this age, someone who's renting a room, or someone who's living with their mama. Not their mama living with them, they're living with their mama.
Okay.
You could
So
have a
so
nice
it
car.
so Anthony,
You can have-
it does matter for you. I mean, to sit up here. So let me say this. I
Mhm.
think at this age, we get into these spaces where we're just like, I got my own money, but we move a certain way. And we want our mate to also be able to move that certain way where it's not like, how much is that? And I'm not saying that you don't have budgets. I believe in that. But I think the thing is, it's just like, is there financial flexibility? I think that is key at this
So my
point.
so the person definitely needs to be able to take care of themselves. So I'm not going to put myself in ever in a situation where I have to fill in the gaps or help pay for like a bill, or
Hi, Rame. Continue. Yeah.
they can't pay their, the light bill this month, so I got to pay for that. I'm not into that. You need to be self-sufficient, take care of yourself. Now, if there is extra spending that I want to do, I want to travel to the Maldives or I want to travel to Paris, and you can't afford it, but you still could take care of yourself, then fine, I'm going by myself. But you can take care of yourself, and I don't have to jump in to help take care of you.
So, okay, so let's move beyond date. You've been dating this person for a while. He can take care of himself, but you are really digging him, and y'all are
Hmm.
talking about marriage, right?
Okay.
So, how does that play out? He can take care of himself to a certain
Hmm.
extent, right? But he can't move how you
To
move.
a certain extent, because
I
it
know you
depends.
just said he can. That's you said a certain extent. I'm just saying. I'm look. All I'm saying is it's just like he can take care of him. Like y'all move in together, y'all decide to buy a house or do certain things together.
Uh-huh.
Does that not matter? Because that may affect your lifestyle.
Meaning what? Like, how would he affect my lifestyle if he's taking care of himself?
I'm saying he's taking care of himself, but you like the thing is like y'all you want him to move with you, you want him to go places with you, so
Well,
on
if
and
I
so
met him in a situation where he can't go to the Maldives or he can't go to Paris or yachting or whatever, and I want to do that. And not that doesn't mean that I go to the Maldives every year or whatever. Don't get me wrong. But I'm saying, um, if that is something that this is how I met him, and he's moving a certain way. Why would I get married and expect him to move differently? I think that would be an unfair thing for me to do or put on a person. All of a sudden I'm married, so the both of us, you need to find money to go to do the
No, I'm
things.
not saying finding money. I'm just saying like this is the person you enjoy going
Right.
places with.
And if at the time when I met him he wasn't doing all of that extra spending, I don't expect him to start doing it because, or I don't expect my life to change because of that. How
So
would
you,
my
you
life
don't
change?
think you don't think that see, I think the thing is it's just like sometimes at this point it's about like minds, right? It's not always about money. It's also about exposure and how
Right,
you move,
right, right,
right?
right. We
But I
communicate
think the thing
together.
is like there is a sense of there is somewhat of a standard that everybody has different standards on basis based on
Right.
what's set,
Hmm.
correct? But I think the thing is it's just like I've had good people. I've dated good people, but they
Right.
just couldn't move the way I wanted it to. And sometimes it became an issue because I was just like, I want you to come with me and I can afford for you, but I don't want to be able to afford for you all the time to do this or do that or so on and so forth. So
But
my
don't you
thing
think
is,
that's a little unfair though? You met them in a certain economic status, and because you want to do something
no,
that they
I'm what I'm trying to say is just like it's fine for a while. It's fine for I'm not saying that he has to, but I'm saying I think it sometimes comes becomes contentious at times. I was like, and then I would just be like, okay, we're not going to do that because I know you can't afford that, and this is what we do, and that's cool. But in the same token, it's just like I want to do. There's certain thing I'm moving. I'm moving in a certain way. I know that you can't move that way, and then does it start to affect the connection because the finances aren't there? Does certain things start to happen because the
well,
communication
it
is not
could.
there and you start to shut down? Because I think sometimes they start to fill into each other.
I think that could happen, and that has certainly happened in situations in the past. But I think we're talking about our current situation and what we've learned in the past and what we're going to accept and what we're not going to accept going forward, right? And so my thing is right now, while the three C's may be helpful, at this age and stage, and maybe something that is important to some. For me, if that person can take care of themselves where there is, and I'm not saying that I'm never helping. I really don't want to ever bring that message across where I don't help the person that I'm with, because you never know what could happen. They get in an accident, whatever the situation is. But in emergency situations, that's different. But I'm
Mhm.
talking about if I met you and you're able to, um, have invite me over to your place, and your place have, your regular basic shit, television, bath towel, food to eat, bed to sleep, whatever, clean bathroom, whatever. That's fine. But I'll be damned if I'm dating you in somebody's room where I have to be shh, 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 don't make no noise because you don't want to wake up your roommate. Not in a roommate situation, and I'm not gonna date anybody that's living with their mother.
Wow. Wow, Lucy. She said, I think about the context of this conversation. While many folks have been able to create lives worthy of IG, when and how do we acknowledge the barriers that exist with the Black folks in wealth accumulation? We all have different standards and situations. For example, I know folks that have chosen many care.
So
Mm,
that's different. They've chosen to take care of their parents and relatives.
right.
That's different than living with your mama,
It is
right?
different. It is, and especially as we get into this age bracket. So let's bring in our panel because I think this is a good start, and it's interesting to kind of bring in people in our panel, and especially the person that came up with the three C's, and have her talk more about it. So Monte, bring them all in for us. Whoa, welcome panel, welcome. Woo!
Hello.
Hey, Miss Ann. Ann is in the up there,
Hi.
female panelist. She's going to speak more on the three C's, and she's been on our show. She's becoming a regular. And we have our creator and producer, Mr. Malik, the song. I'll call our songbird. And then finally, new to the show, he is the author of Nice Guys and Players. That sounds interesting, Ron. Motivational speaker, YouTube, and despite his age, he can still bench 250 or 215 to 250. Welcome, Ron Willis. Hi, Ron. How are you? And yesterday,
That's 250 to 315.
excuse me.
I
I'm
dare you,
sorry.
Ram. I dare
All
you.
right. Are you giving Jalen Rose? Are you in competitive with Jalen Rose right now? I mean, Jalen Hurts, not Jalen Rose.
Oh
Jalen Hurts.
no! I ain't messing. I ain't
He's
on
like
that level.
600, right?
I'm not on that level.
And not on that level. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just
So,
only the guy who stays in shape.
all right. So, Anne, I'm gonna start
Yes.
with you because this whole
Okay.
concept of the three C's, the car, the career, or you said the career, the car, the credit, so on and so forth.
Correct. Yes.
Grid. Um, how did you come up with that, and how has that kind of measured your dating, your dating whatever? I guess
Okay.
outlook.
So it was talking amongst girlfriends, and one of my girlfriends, Odetta, she's been divorced longer and dating, and we all dating, and we start talking about what's important. And she kind of coined it with the top three because there are actually a lot of C's.
There are a
C is
lot of
just such a great, you know, initial, and we came up with the basics. Now these are just basics. A lot of what Anthea is saying is true. It doesn't mean that this is a great person. It doesn't mean that they're a good person. It's just you're stepping to the dating process with the basic. You have a career, or you can sustain yourself. It doesn't, you have a job, you have a career, you can sustain yourself. You have somewhere to live that's your own, whether you're renting or owning. Like, we're not living with our mother, we're not doing roommates at this age. And you also have a car or slash credit, meaning we live in New York City, a car is not absolutely necessary, but there's Uber. You have means to rent a car if we need to go away for the weekend, that everything doesn't have to be on my driver's license, my credit. You don't have the Uber app. You're asking me to call you cabs. This has actually happened.
Mhm.
So it's like just coming to the relationship saying, I have these basic things. And what I have found is that men tend to lie a lot. So what we have to do is I'm going to trust what you say, but I'm also going to verify, you know, I need to see where you live. And this is not like we're dating for a month or a week and, oh, you're going to come to my house. It's not like a Netflix and chill type of thing. It's like we just need to establish, you know, where we are at the ground level in terms of, you know, who do you live with? It's a basic question. So
Mm.
you should be
And
able
this is
to answer that comfortably,
so
right?
it's your
You
Where do you
should.
work? Where do you work? It's not,
yes.
you're not Tommy. Like, how do you get, whether it's your own
So let me,
business, you know?
gentlemen, do you guys get turned? So I want to pose this to the gentleman with
Hmm.
this staying in this three C's. When women ask you this, what is going through your mind? Like, where do you work? What do you do? So on and so forth. Especially, I'm
Well,
sorry, Ron.
yeah, it depends on the context, how quickly she asked the question, you know, because many men out here are concerned about women coming for them for their money. But at the same time, everything she said is something that I talk about on one of my YouTube channels. I've told men, because my primary thing is talking about self development for men. I said, look, it's reasonable for you to have something. You need to have something, a business, career, something like that. And not necessarily for the women, but for yourself. So that's reasonable. He needs to be working. And I've told women that on my women's channel. I said, look, it's reasonable that you have a man that has those basics. He needs to have something going on. He needs to have that exactly the either renting a place or owning a place, a means of getting around. He needs to be independent. And
Right.
I've told the men this. So there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, many men are concerned who have those things that the woman just wants them for those things. But what I would suggest with ladies, you can kind of tell after a while. You know how y'all check out stuff. You can tell if that man has something going on, because if he has those things, he's going to be more assertive. He ain't going to be trying to go over to your place. You won't, you know, he's going to pick you up in his car. You know, he's
Hmm.
going to get the Uber. He's just going to be assertive and really take over the situation.
Right.
Mm.
So if you have to question it, it's actually reasonable. If you have to get to a point like, you know, you have to have that support. But I'm more into the other three C's that you have presented. You still have to have that connection and everything. But to have
Hmm.
those basics is what a man needs to have, not even to date, but just for himself.
Thank
Agree.
you.
Yeah.
Malik,
Okay.
when women
I,
ask you,
I am
when they see that Porsche, Malik,
I am highly offended,
why are you highly
because
offended?
this is the thing, right? When you
Uh-huh.
go out to make a friend, you're
Hmm.
not vetting your girlfriends and people that you just become friends with this same stringent criteria. You're just out vibing with them. And when you find out, like Sunshine didn't meet you and be like, okay, Natalie, before we are friends, I need to know if you have credit, your own house, this and that. You just became friends, and organically she saw whatever it was you were about. If you had a car, you say, "Oh, girl, we going to Soul Summit. I'll pick you up. Oh, come by my house and get ready with me." So it's like, just be my friend, get to know me. You don't
Mhm.
have to put all this pressure, and you will see as time progresses. I don't have to give you my resume the day I meet you to say I have boom, boom, boom. Like just vibe with me. Because here's the thing: if you don't have the latter three C's, the first three C's don't even matter. And then, as Ann said earlier, which I'm glad she said this, not to throw mankind under the bus, but men are phenomenal liars. You have guys who hit whole families, they've hit children. So you don't think it's nothing for me to like lend my car to one of my friends for a couple dates?
Hmm.
I've done it.
Mm.
I am going to have to just get on Malik for a second because once again, from our last show, I feel like he confuses the difference between family, girlfriends, daughters, and relationships. Just like when he said on the last show, well, I think of my daughters as I'm always going to pay, I'm always going to protect. And I said to him, you are not a provider and a protector based on what you're telling me. And comparing what I don't care what my girlfriends have. We're not dating. I don't care what my coworkers have. We're not dating. But if you're a man and you're approaching me in your 50s and yes, I'm absolutely asking you from day one, okay, at hello. I'm asking you at hello, and I have. So it's a complete difference. And
But you don't even know if you like me at hello. What,
that's
like have a
I don't.
conversation with me?
That's right. We will never get to caring, charming, conscientious, commitment, captivating, anything. We will never get to compatibility if you can't even have the basics. We will
So,
never get there.
and why do you ask at hello? I because like
Hmm.
Lucy said she agrees with Malik. She says she never asks a man what he does for a living. She creates time and space for that to come into light. Why not do that?
Because again, the good point that he made is that men lie. And it has happened to me. I don't want to get into a situation which has happened before where we are vibing, we're having a good conversation. You've told me you live here or you do this or you have that. And it's not about financial, it's about being truthful. So you're telling me that you own a home, and then I come to find out that you're renting a room. I'm not I'm not
So,
judging you. I'm just saying you should not be approaching, situations where you're in a complete lie. I'd rather know your situation up front and make my decision whether I feel like going forward with you than you lying to me because you want to impress me or, not being truthful.
and you're coming off with the basis that all men are liars until you prove them wrong. That's
Basically, like, trust
that's
but verify. Trust but verify. So I'm going
And
to
here's the
trust what you
thing:
tell me, but
if I'm
I
a
need
liar,
to see.
here's the thing: if I'm a liar, I'm probably a good liar. So I think, like Lucy said, if you create time and space, you will see. Like instead of me saying I have a car, if you be like, hey, let's go out next weekend, and then you just say like you propose, well, should I pick you up or do you want to pick me up? And if the guy's like, oh, don't worry, I'll pick you up. You'll see what kind of car he has. That's why I think I don't believe anything anyone says. So I agree with you on that. But I do try to create situations and instances where I can see what it is. So if I'm like, oh, I'll pick you up, that's my way of finding out where you live without asking you, do you own a home? I'll say, like, hey, I'll pick you up. Then if you give me an address, I'll pull up and you'll be like, oh, well, I don't like men to know where I live. So this is my girlfriend's house. Or yes, this is my brownstone. Or yes, this is my condo. There's ways to get, because I just feel like when you ask these questions, there's no way of knowing if you're getting a truthful response.
So
Well,
Well, I have asked.
let me add to this real quick because I understand where you're coming from, sister. But as someone who's been around men with money, that's a big concern. Is the woman liking him for him or his status? And that's a very big concern. Maybe during the conversation, y'all can just talk and you can kind of get an idea of what he's about. And also, it depends on where you might meet the man. If he's at a certain location that's known to have professionals who have their stuff together, you have a general idea. Even if he's lying, you still have a general idea whether or not he's lying or how he's carrying himself. Because a man who has a career, he's going to be confident. He has his own home. He's going to walk confidently. He has a car. You probably see the car, so you're going to get an idea. Even how he keeps the car, he could have a regular economy car, but he still has something. Because the reality is, many men are concerned about a woman just wanting him for his money. I mean, I've known some guys. They've had big houses, many mansions, but if they're going on a date with a pickup truck just to gauge what the lady wants and how she
And
feels. So
I agree with
kind
that.
of how
Yeah.
you do it. It's how you do it. Now, as
Yeah.
I teach men, I say, look, you got to have those as a basic just for yourself. But, sometimes ladies, I understand you want that security, but be very careful on how you present that.
right.
So be very careful.
Right.
Maybe work it into, like, okay, y'all go on that first date. It can be worked into the conversation. Easily, just work it in. Just have a way of working it in, and listen to how he responds, how he talks. Because, like I said, a man with a career or a successful business, he's going to carry himself in a certain way. And I know, ladies, y'all have experience dealing with these different types of men. I'm not sure, not being a lady, but I would assume you have a way of, well, excuse the language, have a bullshit detector.
So, gentlemen,
Mhm.
and I'm going to let you respond, and then I want to ask another question to the men directly.
Okay. And my response is, Ron, I agree with you 1000%. And like I said from the beginning, this is a basic. You need to have a basic. This is not about a financial. This is not about you have to have a certain job or you have to have a certain car or you have to have a certain career. It's about being able to sustain yourself and being honest and come into the relationship with that honesty and not presenting a front. So there's a difference between, I get it, someone who's a gold digger and saying, oh, well, what does he do? Because, he better be an investment banker or something. And that's not where I'm coming from or any of my girlfriends coming from. It's coming from a place of coming to a woman at this age and just being an adult, just having the basics for an adult. So that's what I would say the difference is.
Okay, and you know what? That's very important. But I would still caution the ladies: you really just kind of work it in something.
So Ron, you're
Maybe ask
saying it's
about
more
social
so.
media, something like that.
You're saying more. It's like the approach and how you ask.
That's it. You got to be very careful about that because trust me, many men. Trust me, I know many men who actually have money. They literally will go on a date with their hoopty. While their luxury car is sitting in the driveway, they literally will. So it's a big concern. But at the same time, you're correct. The man needs to have something going on, especially when you're talking about an older man. If it's somebody, young people, that's one thing they building. But a man in his 50s, he need to have something. He don't necessarily have to have that big old house, but his own spot. He don't need to be having a roommate or something. And I've told men this constantly. I preach sovereignty for a man having his space. I preach it.
Ron, I want to ask this question. So when do you start to really share and open up that? Like, as women, you want to know, because I think the thing is I think when, and I understand what Ann is saying, and I kind of even understand what Malik is saying, but when do you start to really share those things?
Well, if you're on a date and you're speaking, it really should just come out. That's going to come out. Hey, what do you do? Or, you could start by talking about what do you do, and then, he'll share. And then maybe, and you can find out if he's lying. Just ask him some questions about what does he do. You don't even have to ask about the money. You can just say, oh, you did, oh, what's that about? How's that going? And then you can tell in his response, how honest he's going to be because, people like talking about themselves. They like sharing. It's like, oh, what do you do? Oh, yeah, this, and this, So it really is just the approach. Seriously. But you know what? I got to say this. It's really fair for the ladies, especially you older. You don't have time to play. You can't be somebody's mommy.
Right.
And I think that's men who allow that.
Yeah. I want to, Anthony, I saw that. Did you have a question before?
Yeah, well, first of all, I am shocked that people are still looking at people's cars to see to determine how well they're doing or not. You can literally like lease a Porsche or a Bentley or Rolls Royce or whatever anytime. But I also want to caution that even at the point of high and you ask somebody, that doesn't guarantee that they're going to tell you the truth. And are we women also telling, I'm going to just play the devil's advocate here. Are women always telling the truth?
Definitely not. Definitely not. And I will say this. I was a pretty young dad. So I was still at home like well into my 20s. And it was a point where I was lying. I was like, my mom lives with me. And if you came to my house and saw the setup, you could clearly see that it was an older person's house. It was like doilies around, plastic on the furniture. But girls were either oblivious to that fact or they just didn't care. And I still had my same bedroom. One bed style was nothing. It was nothing updated to look like a man's apartment. And I was just like, and my mother worked nights a lot. So she might trade to like 2, 3 in the morning. I might say a little joke like, oh yeah, Mom, so I put this aside for you. And she'd be like, what? She didn't even know what I'm talking about. So I'm like, yeah, my mom, I set her up in her room in the back. So it's like, I often felt, and maybe Ron speaks to this in his book, I felt I was more successful lying than when I became honest.
Oh,
Well,
You
I'm
were
gonna tell
more
you what.
successful in lying than being honest.
You know, because I
Wow.
would like borrow my friends' cars when I didn't have a car. I
So
would say
listen,
that
I
we
want
got
to ask a real
multiple
question
times.
to everybody. Like seriously, how much weight do these tangibles really carry at this point in our lives? Like, let's be real. Does it affect the connection if he or she cannot move in a certain way? Or I mean, does it how much does it really affect the growth of the relationship?
This is what a woman told me once. She said, "Flowers don't chase the bees."
Hmm.
And I had to stop and think about that. I was like, what does she mean by that? She goes, most women present themselves as flowers, and the man is the bee buzzing around trying to get them. But when you meet those unique men that have all of these things that women look for, whether it's social status, whether it's cars, cribs, credit, they become flowers. And that's why you created this whole prevailing aesthetic now that a man has to have all of these things to make him a man. And I feel like that's, my mother didn't teach me when I was a child, you better make X number of dollars when you get older so you can court this woman properly. And I don't think any mother is teaching that to their sons now. So it's like, just be a good person. And if you're a good person, you're going to have good things in your life. You're going to attract good people. So it shouldn't matter. Like, so I feel like if you're in the right spaces, you're going to be meeting like-minded people. So you're not going to be at like an after work function with someone who's a shiftless Negro lying about where he lives and not having a car. If you're at most people who go to like happy after work, right? It's for working people. So typically everyone in there should probably have similar incomes because most people frequent places that speak to their disposable income, and you're going to meet a very like-minded, similar person. So I feel like when people leave with these questions, it's like, why are you even asking me that? Like, you're here, I'm here, right? So we probably have comparable income.
Okay.
But and I'm going to talk to, I want to, because you said you collect data, right?
Yes, I
When you
did.
date, you collect data. You're
Hmm.
trying to sort out who is right for you. I totally
Hmm.
get it. So how, like with the tangibles, why is it important for you to establish that in the relationship for yourself?
Okay, I want to just reiterate because it's come up twice with the men that this is not about status, it's not about how much you make, it's not about the type of car you have. It's absolutely just about honesty and
Mhm.
being a grown man, woman, and being able to support yourself as an adult. So that's what it comes down to. And it comes down to honesty and truth. So for me, that's what it is. And Anthony said at the beginning of the show, no, I'm not going to accept someone that's living with their mother in the room that they grew up in. Or it's not that you're taking care of your mom, that you're still living there. You haven't been on your own. And I remember not a close friend of mine, but a very real situation. A couple, they were dating for quite some time, and he asked her to marry him. And he had never lived on his own. And she said, I can't accept this until you live on your own. And he had to go out, get an apartment, live by himself for a year. She had owned a condo before she would accept that engagement. So it's really about, being able to take care of yourself. That's what it is about for me. And being upfront and being able to take care of yourself.
Mm. Mm.
Okay.
So Ann, I want to ask you something. If I met you, we're
Mhm.
out, we're having a great evening together. You think I'm a charming, amazing guy. I'm making you laugh. I'm not touching your food while you're eating because I know you don't like
Right?
that.
That's right.
I'm allowing you the space to eat your meal in peace.
Hmm.
And then I'm like, listen, you know what? I just want to be honest with you because we're having such a great evening. But I just went through a very strenuous divorce. I'm paying alimony and I have 2 children. So I'm back home at my parents' house, but I'm getting it together. And I'm like, listen, even to be more transparent, this is what I have in the bank. So I'm saving up to buy me another place, but I'm halfway to my goal. So I'm in my parents' home, but I have a car, I'm mobile, I'm still working. I just, I had this alimony payment. With that, then X me out because I'm back at home.
I would not say that would X you out. I would appreciate your honesty. And I would have to see how viable, how long is that going to take? How viable is that? Like, what's like it, it does take time to get back on your feet, but there are situations where I feel like men, especially men who aren't custodial parents, tend to kind of like just live a bachelor life, whether that's renting a room or going back home with their mom because they're not the custodial parent and they're not thinking about, having a home for their children or a home of their own. They're just sort of living. And that to me speaks to value. Then we don't have the same value system because I would need to see you, go out and I'm not giving you a time frame. I'm not giving you a time limit, but there are some men that'll just rest on that laurel and say, you know what? I've seen it happen. I can name a man right now, which I would not publicly, that went through that, a divorce, alimony, child, moved back in with his family. And now he's 57 and he's still there. So that doesn't work for me. You have to have some type of,
But I'm gonna be
want
honest,
in
I would live at
yourself.
home. If it wasn't such a social stigma, I would live at home. I like being at my mom's house.
Let's talk about
It's just a
Yeah.
social stigma. And I'm thinking, like, why is there such a social stigma with living with your family? We come from a tradition of community and communal living and tribal living. So it's like, why is it so frowned upon to be at home?
So Malik, for me personally, when I'm dating someone, I want to be able to either if they come by me, they can walk around the house naked. And if I go by them, I can walk around their house naked. And if I have to be like, shh, don't do this, don't do that, tiptoe here, keep the noise down there because mama's sleeping it doesn't work for me. Really doesn't.
No, I get it, but like
listen,
I joke with my mother. I
totally
said, Mom,
different.
Somebody said the interest rates are crazy right now.
Like,
and
I joke
rents
with
are
my
too damn
mom.
high.
I said
So
$4,000 a month ain't worth it to walk around butt naked, Ma. Like, I would be like, Ma, I want to come home.
Where you
She'd be like, you don't like living on your own. I'm like, Ma, $4,000 ain't worth being naked every month. Like, it ain't worth it. Just that ability to do that. To do that
So let me ask you
occasionally.
a question, and these are for the ladies. When that happens and you find out, like, let's say, Ann, you were dating somebody, they just got divorced or whatever, and they's like, okay, babe, I'm going to move out in 8 months, right? Y'all are going, everything is going smoothly. The connection, the other 3 C's are happening nicely, right? And he's going to be like, babe, I need 1 more year. What happens?
Oh God, I hate to speak in what ifs because you don't know, so I never, no one's going to ever know what they're going to do in a situation. I can only know what I've done in a situation. So, and I don't know if I would have gotten that involved. I don't know. Because I do remember someone approaching me that was going through a divorce and he was going to move and he was going to do this. And I said, okay, let me know when you're settled. I'll wait. I just don't feel like in a rush to be with someone. Like if it's meant to be, it'll be, so I don't know that I would have let it go on that far.
Yeah. And somebody going through a divorce definitely is going to need some time. You really don't need to be in another relationship right after. Give him some time to breathe, to get his bearing, to get back in there. But having them come out and start dating you while they're still going through that transition, they probably need that time for themselves anyway. Maybe they shouldn't be dating yet.
Yeah, I have a question for the ladies. Where are y'all going that y'all not meeting successful men who just at that level anyway? I'm just curious.
People always
I
go
think
ahead.
that I've met. Go ahead, Natalie. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead, Ian.
I think that I've definitely I shared on my other show with Natalie that I have not been dating that long, and I have ran into a few men that just lied, flat out, about their situations, and I don't know the reason. I don't know if it was to impress. I don't know because I've always been very like upfront, and I shared this with Natalie. Coming into this market in my as 50 and single from a divorce, I was surprised. So I was just very surprised by what was out here. And I was very surprised that I didn't know my value and I need to hold some things back because there are men out here that will take advantage of the fact that, you do have your own home, you have your own career, you have your own car, and they're looking for someone to sustain them, they're what they're calling hobosexuals. You know, they're looking for for you to support them. So, and they'll lie about it.
Mm.
Well, yeah, they
I,
exist, of course, but thing is, there are like plenty of successful men out there. I
Mhm.
mean, this is like the career crib car. You know, when I saw the
So
question
basic.
for the
Mhm.
show, I was like, isn't that normal?
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, there's
No.
plenty of guys out there. They're looking for a good lady, and you know, not
Mhm.
necessarily a young woman. They're looking for someone who's more mature. So to me,
Mhm.
it's like two ships passing in the night. That's why I had that question because, like I said, there's plenty of guys out there, but I always question it or want to know from the ladies rather than that disputing what you're saying. Uh, who are you meeting? I mean, like the lie thing. I mean, you know, older men they'll pretty much tell you what they want just straight up. Successful men they don't have a reason to lie because they got the career, they got the shoot. They probably brag about their career. They got the house. They probably want to show you around the house and say, "Yeah, baby, this is me." And they pull up in that car, you know, leaning back, driving. So I'm just like,
Ron, sometimes they don't come in. The problem is sometimes they don't come in the package that we want.
I was trying to like hold back from saying
I was
that.
just, I'm going to say it
Nice.
for you, and I'm going to be straight up. Sometimes they don't come out. Those men, yes, they are successful and they have it together. But what I'm saying is sometimes they don't come in the package, or the chemistry is not there, or something else. And so you end up being drawn to the ones who got super swag, but nothing else.
You know what, Natalie? I was going to try to hold back from saying it,
I,
but
I'll,
you
I'll,
brought
I'll,
that
I'll,
out because
I'll
that was
open
my
up that.
first
I'll
thing.
open up that word. I'll open up those.
You know,
The
Natalie
cage.
got
Okay,
a lot of
because that is a
people call
case.
him Nathan Bookman, right? But
Nice guys and players. You wrote a book about it.
Yeah, I know, because that's what I tell men to
I
do. I
gotta
mean,
buy
I'm
this book.
online for talking about body game and men fixing themselves up physically, because that's the shoot. You could probably do a whole show on that. It's like the men are there, but do you like how they look? Do you feel good around them? You know, do you have that chemistry? Do you have that
Because I
lust
think
for 'em?
you know what it is, especially if you. Not saying we aren't still hot at 50, but if you were back on the market and you were if you were the hot it girl at 20, it looks a little different now. If you're back on the market at 50,
Yeah.
like it does, like it's a mature. And I think chemistry and vibe matter. They do. I think we can't say that it doesn't, especially if that's
Okay.
how we have been
Mhm.
moving all our lives. But I think it's like, as women, sometimes we have to graduate. And I think it is the basics. I agree with Ann because I've dated somebody who he was from house to house. I thought he had a crib. He wouldn't have no crib.
Yeah.
His crib was whatever woman's house he was at that day.
Yes.
And, and that's
Mhm.
out there too. And
But
what
he had,
those kind of
but
guys
he was
have, they
cute.
got that chemistry,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
And one of the things I do with nice guys and players, and I've had probably thousands of men over the past 20 or so years, I say, look, if you truly want to satisfy a woman, you need to have both. You need to be able to satisfy her physically, you know, have some chemistry, you know, good love making and all of that, but you need to have your stuff together otherwise. So that's the main point, because I understand that's their frustration. Yeah, you might meet that successful man, got the career, crib, car, but you're looking at them and you're just not getting excited. You
You
know,
like
it's
he
like the
got
hard time you're
he
Right.
got
doing.
man boobs.
Yeah. So, Ron, have you had those men that have been the players that have the looks and they're leaning on that? They're leaning on
Oh
those
yeah,
looks and they're really not bringing anything else? Because I think that's the problem too. They're leaning on those looks, and then we get attracted to, we have a physical attraction. And then when we get to know them, we realize that, wait a minute, there's really no substance here. They're lying about, what they really have. So exactly what Natalie said, then the opposite happens. You have the looks and they're just leaning on that.
They
And
you
have
know
it's
no
not
what?
gonna
substance for
last.
anything else.
there's
Here's
also
the thing with
men
the
out there.
fellas that come to me. You do. I've met plenty because they would come to me for exactly that. They realize, okay, they need to do more. So I said, okay, once you start in business. Like I had a consultation client, he was a straight up player. Now that dude's successful doing some some things with writing books and everything, traveling. You know, he's doing some real educational stuff. I actually had to talk him down off the 15 women he had in his rotation. Because I say, what are you calling me for? And they say, oh, okay, you need to focus on this, this, and this. Because it's all about that balance. Because that's always been my main argument. Man needs that balance. Because when you look at all these C's, personally, I say you need all of them. It's just a question of which one comes up. Right. You know, yeah, you can have that communication, but you need to have that place to stay. And so, also, as far as how you're dealing with the women outside the bedroom.
So going back to what Anthea's argument was, she's like, you can't have all 6 and still be a motherfucker. Sorry. But
yeah.
It was tough. That's tough now. Come on, Karen. Because somebody, a dog is just cold-blooded. I mean, come on now. If he's caring.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the connection, communication, that's easy because, you know, somebody bad can definitely talk and you can get that at least physical connection. But if you're talking about genuine caring, genuine love, a man who has great intentions for you, he wants to see you do the best. He wants to see you at your best. If you tell him you got a little side business, despite what he has going on, he say, well, hold up, let me help. You know, or if you have some family issue, he said, baby, I'm here for you. I'm right here for you. You know, that's caring. So if somebody got caring, I can't see them being bad unless they faking. Like that's the only way.
Right. I think there's manipulation.
If they doing that, if they lying. But if a man has a genuine heart, the woman needs to really look for that. Beyond all shadow of a doubt. Now, the other stuff can come. Anybody can get a job. As a man, he can always get a job and everything. And he should, as I always preach, he should want his own stuff. But that caring part, that's very important. That's very important, especially the communication, connection. Other stuff supports the relationship.
Yeah.
Well, do you ladies think that I feel like sometimes women, and this is just my feeling, I'm not saying it's fact, that sometimes, I don't know if it's a maternal instinct or something that kicks in women that you almost want a man that is a project, that you almost want a guy that doesn't have his stuff together because you feel like maybe a guy who does have his stuff together, he might want to control you or you know, yeah, I just wonder sometimes because I feel like when I had nothing, the game came to me so much easier and quicker.
I was there too, bro.
And the more things I started to get, and the more I started to like kind of realign myself, I was like, man, I would think it would have got easier with more money and things at my disposal. But it's like when I became more honest and transparent, I was like, okay, they don't want this. They don't want somebody that's on his feet. They don't want somebody that has his own place. They don't want this. They don't, you know.
Is it about power? Is whoever has the money has the power and the control? Do you think there's a shift going on, Malik?
I think women think that. I think that as much as you might scream for chivalry on one breath and then the next breath you want equality, you know, there's just like this unwritten rule or this unwritten dynamic of like men believe money equals power and then women believe physical intimacy equals power. And there's this constant underlying battle in a relationship. And it's like, neither one of those things equal power. Right. Like, just because I buy you dinner doesn't mean you should sleep with me.
Right.
Right.
And just because, and just because, you know, and just because I go out doesn't, you know what I mean? It's just like, I don't get where these things come from. I mean, I want you to sleep with me because you're attracted to me.
But I think, Malik, I think some men do go, I'm not going to say all, but I think some people move like that. Like, it's transactional.
I mean, I think it in my head too. I'm like, oh, she getting lobster? Okay. So you are coming home tonight with me. But I don't say it, but I think it. But you know, but
somebody says the fact that yourself, Malik.
The fact that right. Even, but I'm saying
you're also thinking, is this 80-20 or 70-30, right? So maybe if it's 70-30, she's not coming home.
So the fact that narrative even exists in our society is sad because who placed that into the atmosphere that is even a thing that people can even say? Because it shouldn't matter who does what. To me, it's like when you said, Sunshine, if you want to go on vacation, your man doesn't have it, you would just go without him. I feel like, why wouldn't you just pay if you could? Because if I have it and I would pay for my lady, if we live in a society of equality and we are truly equals, what does it matter who does what? As long as the unit moves forward successfully. It's like a basketball team. Jordan might got 100 points, but I might got 100 blocks. And then it might switch next season. I might have 100 points. He has 100 blocks. So to me, I think if it's genuine,
But Malik,
nothing really matters.
I think the context of which I was speaking to is if I met that person and that person was not that type of guy to be traveling, or that they're in that, you know, means where they can't do anything extra. I'm not gonna try to kid myself and try to change his dynamics with paying to go to Paris or wherever it is. But then the next time I want to travel again, I gotta pay again, and then I gotta pay again. So once I start that, it's gonna be like a habit, right? And I met him without him having that means to do that stuff. I'm not saying once in a while, maybe, but once I start that stuff, there's gonna be some expectation that I'm gonna have to finish it.
So that's why I keep saying, how does it, that affects the connection, does it not? Like if
100%.
you are, huh?
100%.
Right, like
100%.
that, like if you
Right,
are,
but
if
do we
you
even
are
go
in, hold on, if you're in a relationship with someone, right? And let's say he's the millionaire, right? You make six figures, whatever, but he's always like, babe, I got it. I got it, I got it, I got it, I got it, I got it. Right. And I'm like, we're like, okay, because I want you with me. I want you to come with me. I want us to, it's y'all are like ride or dies, right? But he doesn't have it like that. Let's say he works at whatever. He works at the post office. He has his whatever he
Don't sleep on the post office now.
no. There's nothing wrong with the post office. He works at the post office, but he plans his trips maybe once or twice a month, or maybe
Right,
once or twice a year, right?
right.
And so, but you're like, oh, I like to travel every other month, right? Because that's what I do, and I want you by my side. And he's like, okay, cool. He's like, I can't do that, but
But
Yeah,
Natalie,
there's
that's a part of the data. And Sunshine is right. Sunshine is a very, very real situation. I have a girlfriend right now. She does extremely well. And she's at our age, she's unexpectedly single and she's dating. And she told me, well, one of the things, because we talked that I was with a guy on a date, he has all of the basics, but he's not at her level. She is a very top level executive. And she was going on a really fabulous vacation, and she said I had to think, if I was dating this guy long term and he'd want to go, am I going to be the one that's always footing the bill? It's just about the data. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong, and I'm not saying that she's
no,
not going
I'm
to
just
pick
pointing
that
it out.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a
Yep.
part of the data that she's saying to herself, is that the type of relationship that I want? You know, that I'm always going to be the one to say, okay, let's go, let's do this. And how does that make you feel? So I agree with Sunshine in that. It's just,
Can I tell you guys
It's-
something? Welcome to the world of manhood. Welcome to the world of manhood, because that's what men do all the time.
Yeah.
Welcome to
hold
the
on.
world of being a man. Because we think
Yeah.
about, like, if I'm going to be with this woman long term, does she want to be a stay-at-home mom? I'm going to pay for every trip. I'm going to pay, you know, but like those guys pay for everything. And we don't even bat an eyelash about it. Once we love you and we're invested, we just do it.
Yeah.
It's part and parcel of being your partner. And it's not like, you know, I can't say the women I've taken care of have done such a phenomenal girlfriend job that they earn like $100,000 salary a year. But you know, whatever, we went trips, I took care of it. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, I don't see why it's a thing. Because if you have it, why not spend it?
Would you feel okay with somebody always footing the bill for you as a man?
I'm going to tell you, me personally, even if it was Oprah or I was in a shared situation or like ASAP and Rihanna, ASAP has money, but Rihanna's a billionaire. There's nothing ASAP can do that is going to really equate to her level of
Okay,
finances.
so we're not talking about ASAP. We're not talking
No, but
about.
I'm just using an example. I'm just
We're
using
talking
like a
about
real
real life
example of
situation
someone who
right
has
here.
money, but his woman is at a much higher price point than him. If I was in that kind of situation where I love my woman, she understood I had money, but she just did better than me for whatever reasons, it wouldn't bother me because I'm secure in myself. Now, if I felt like I didn't have enough money and I was fronting, I probably would not be able to handle the situation. But if I know, like, hey, I did the best I could do in life, I got a master's degree, I'm making high six figures, but she's making millions because she's an entrepreneur. And we know that people who tend to work for people don't make as much as people that run their own businesses. It's just a different price point.
Well,
Mhm.
it depends.
But you get what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like the average person who's
Mhm.
an entrepreneurial spirit is different than even a high-ranking exec. So if that was the dynamic of my relationship, but and my wife never emasculated me about it, and I never felt I wouldn't care because we're just enjoying each other's company. It's like when I pay for dinner, I'm not thinking in my mind, oh, this girl is using me or she's taking advantage of me. I'm just thinking like, wow, I'm with a dope individual. So it's like if we really say we're such an egalitarian society and equality exists, why do these things matter? If you have it,
I think it
They
matters
don't
right
have it.
now because of the age. I don't look at things the way I did at 25. At 25, when you're building, I'm the mother of your children, whether I'm paying or you're paying, and we're a unit and we're building. When we're meeting and dating at this age, I think we do need some equality. We do need some equality in the relationship and what we're bringing to it. There is a certain level set, and it's not a billionaire versus millionaire level set. I mean, it's just in general. It's just a general, level set. And for most of us, just being realistic, like, you know, we're going to be making, you know, most of us, I think, make six figures, and we're going to be sort of like in a group, like you said, whether it's after work with people around that same. It's just a level set of just
We move a
being
certain
around. We just
yeah.
move in a certain way, and we're just in those circles. It's not that you're talking about something that's a very disparate situation. That's not what we're talking about. It's like we're just moving in a certain way, and I'm not moving the way I was at 25. Like, it's different. I don't want to build. I'm sorry, I'm not building at
No,
this
but
age.
I'm not saying building, but it's like I snowboard every weekend, right? Now the
Mhm.
girl I deal with, she can't afford to snowboard. She comes with me every weekend. It's nothing. I get a lift ticket, I get a rentals, drive there. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. And that's about maybe $200 extra that goes to her because she doesn't own her own equipment because she doesn't do it regularly. She doesn't have a season pass, which is cheaper. So every week she wants to come, we go. And it's not like and now I always ask myself, if this was reversed, would she do it for me and not even think about it? Or would it be a conversation with her girlfriends? Like, well, I got to take Malik snowboarding again. He ain't got it this week. Whereas me, it's like, nah, you want to have fun? I got it. I would probably waste this money on sneakers or something else. So you know what? If I can enrich your life and we can spend time together, come have a good time with me.
Rom, I see you shaking your head. You were
Oh
shaking.
no, I'm actually agreeing with them in the sense of, as men, that's how we think anyway, and that's just the nature of society. We expect to be providers. Yes, the lady might can make money or something, and maybe she has some issue, maybe paying for them, or have to talk to her girlfriends. But for us, it's not a big deal. We expect it, so it's not a big deal. It's like having fun. If I want, if I want to go to a fancy restaurant, I'm like, yeah, come on,
Mm.
even if she's the type say, well, I'll put that money away. That's just us. I don't leave with my wallet though, but
You don't leave with your wallet.
I don't leave with my wallet.
Gotcha.
But if we go on
What do
someplace,
you leave
I don't
with?
have a problem with it. I don't have a problem, because I'm thinking, okay, I want to go to this place, I want to go to this restaurant, go on this trip. Okay, let's just go. Let's just
So,
go.
Ram, what do you lead with typically?
Oh, just who I am. Because, when I saw those C's, I want to know the person. Because the money's already there. I ain't worried about, I'm living my dream money wise, got a big old place. Drive a modest car, but I can drive something better. But if you're worried about my car, I'm like, it works.
Ain't for you, no.
But
Right.
my thing is, I want to know the person. Is this a person that can be an asset to me? Can we have a conversation?
Right.
Can we click? Do we have chemistry?
Mhm.
I'm more worried about that because, in my eyes, the money's already there. Because I'm going to make the money anyway, and I don't need to lie to her. I'll just say, "Hey, this is me. This is what I got. You either like it or you don't." But I want to know: can we laugh together? Can we have fun? Can we sit and just have a conversation? Maybe just in the park. Take the money and stuff out of it. That should be a given anyway.
But if it's not,
Oh,
so do they all have to be there? Because
as
if
far as
you don't,
as far as
like
what
as
money?
far as like if you have the connection, with the connection without the
that's-
first three C's, those economic three C's or whatever you want to, whatever they're
Well,
interchangeable.
from a man's point of view, it's not a big deal. But I would say, here's the thing: if we just dating, that's not a big deal. But if we talking long term, I'm saying, okay, how can you add to my three C's?
Mm.
Are you an asset or a liability? That's from a man's point of view. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm thinking, okay, is being with this person going to hold my business back, or is it going to help move it forward? Because this is what I do. It's not just something I go to a 9 to 5. When I'm doing stuff like this, I mean, I can do a show like this, got to do my videos, constantly doing it. So it's like, can you deal with that life? So I want to know who she is as a person. I don't care about, as men, it's not a big deal about what she bringing financially or she got a car or a crib or anything. I'm paying attention though, just strictly to see what type of person she is.
Right. You want a good person, right?
Like I have a question for you, ladies.
Yeah, and nobody wants a liability. Nobody wants a liability.
Add to what I'm doing.
Can I ask you ladies a question?
Mhm.
I have two questions. One, do women ever ask themselves, are they an investment or a bill? And two, if you guys ever saw that movie, The South Side, when Barack and Michelle first met, he was a bum.
Yeah.
He became the president.
But
Yeah,
we are talking about a different stage in our lives, right?
No, but I mean, they were in their 20s,
right? But we're not in our 20s.
Exactly. We're not in our 20s. That's irrelevant.
But I think that kind of holds true. That's why I say, do women ever ask themselves, am I an investment for this man or I'm a bill? Because most men don't mind investing in something. If like I'm investing in taking trips with you because I love your energy and the connectivity, or I'm investing maybe
that means you got time though. You got time at this stage and age. It's not like we don't have time or time is running out, but we don't have too much time to waste as we did in the 20s.
Time is running out.
It is.
Those first 50 years went fast. Shit.
Yes, they did.
They went like fast.
But I think people use that as a metric to speed through necessary steps in vetting people and getting to know people.
Say that again.
I think people use that statement of time is running out as a way to speed through necessary steps. Like I think Lucy said it best earlier. If you create time and space, and that doesn't take a lot, you can really find out what you need to know.
Yeah.
And know how to proceed. But I think most people are initially blinded by what they want. Like, we all have subtle expectations inside of us. So you might, I want a guy that's this tall. I hope he drives this kind of car. I hope he lives there. I want him to have this kind of career.
If people are asking for those specific things you just called out, then they have not matured. Like,
no, what I'm saying, I don't even think people are actively asking for it. I think it's what, like when you go out, you have certain things you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You
have certain things in your mind you're drawn
correct.
to.
That you might be projected or drawn to. And I think sometimes we just look for those things. And it's like, if it doesn't come in that package, we are not happy with it. And men are the same way. Men are more visual. Like Ron said, we don't really care if a girl has a car. I don't care if you live at home. It doesn't even matter to me. Like, it really doesn't.
But does it matter when you're taking her seriously? Like you said, it's because the bill and the liability question, that's when it comes into play.
Now I'm thinking about it. But I'm trying to think of all the people I date now. Maybe one has a car.
I didn't say the car situation. I'm talking about where y'all call it the bill or the whatever.
Yeah, like
I said a liability.
Yeah,
I think most of the women I date now are not investments; they're bills. So I'm looking to rectify that.
Malik, my thing is, right, if you at a stage now and you are dating someone and she invites you by her and you have to whisper and you have to sneak in at a certain time, wouldn't you have some questions like what the hell is going on? You're grown. Why are you sneaking in? Why are you whispering? Why are you tiptoeing?
I'm gonna be honest, my first one will probably we could go back to my crib. Because I have a way to rectify the situation.
The point is that you want to be able to.
No, but I'm saying because I can resolve the situation, I wouldn't really focus on the problem. And maybe that's where men are very short-sighted. we don't think about it. We just like, oh, okay, like you live at home, come to my house. So I just wonder why women don't have that same approach to it. Like, oh, you live at home, come to my crib. I don't. We
It's
like
a
each
turn
other.
off. It's a turn
That's
off.
right. It's a turn off.
It's a turn. I
Even
mean,
if I'm at-
honestly,
So if
and
I'm
I
at
think
home,
it's
Natalie, and
also.
I'm like rubbing my grandmother's toes before she goes to bed. I'm making sure my mom's windows is locked. Like you see,
It's
like, wow,
one
this guy
thing
really
when,
about his family.
and I'm going to be straight up. It's one thing when you have had your mom and your grandmother move in with you, but if I know, I'm just thinking for a lot of women, I'm not saying all, it's somewhat of a turnoff when you have a grown ass man who's 50, and it's like, how long have you been living with your mama? Oh, you've been there for about 5
He say
years.
50 years. He's like, I never left 50 years.
Mm.
That bothers you?
Well,
I mean, if you ain't moved out since you were born, we got.
You don't see no benefits of him being family oriented. Him, saying, "Listen, I'm trying to go back to a more Afrocentric style, and we invest in the money as a family."
I would be like,
Yeah, no. And I just want to clarify one thing on the crib, because that's what I had originally said. And I said it's not about ownership, it could be renting, but it's also about not living with a woman, because a lot of
right.
men will say oh, I'm separated, or yeah, I'm doing this, or I live in the base. It's like it's clear. It's like I said, for me, it's all about honesty and not lying. And that crib is about clarity too, because I can say right now that I know a woman that's dating someone and she's never been to this man's home because he's always making an excuse. And at a
Yeah.
certain point, it starts to question. I'm questioning your honesty. You told me
Yeah.
you lived alone. You told me you're divorced. So that crib, the onus is about honesty. That car, it's not about what you drive. It's about, I've had a guy ask me to call him an Uber, and I was like, but why would I do that? Download the app. Like, oh, I'll sell you the money. Why?
Ooh,
Like,
it's time. And
sorry,
no,
this is
and I love
honesty.
the whole 3C thing. I have one more question, Montaigne. Give me one more minute. So, when you really think about it and you kind of recall, has your outlook really changed that much versus 10 years or 20 years ago with
Yes.
this? It has?
Yes. I'm going to say
Yes.
yes, because about 10, 12 years ago, I was the one footing the bill for a lot of the entertainment that I wanted to go to or to experience. And that's why I'm extremely adamant now about
Got you.
you start that shit, you're going to pretty
You're
much
going to
be,
always.
and it's not like you don't want once in a while plan something where you want to take that person out and you pay for it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about all the time. And so for
Mhm.
me personally, I prefer to do bad by myself than to be
Mhm.
in a relationship doing bad with somebody else. I'm sorry, I just don't have the patience for it anymore.
Yep,
Gotcha.
a
well, sister,
thousand percent, 1,000% sunshine. And I was the same way, paying for everything, doing everything because it's what I like to do. I want to do this, I want to do that. And at the end of the day, when I dated someone, like I said more recently, that I found out later on did not have their own place, they're always coming to my place, that becomes a liability because guess what? There's an intrinsic value of spending time with me. When you're
Yeah.
coming and you're doing your laundry here and using my facilities for everything, and you're not paying your own bills. Do you recognize there's an intrinsic value of spending time in my home all the time?
So,
You
ladies,
know?
those
Mhm.
those 3Cs do matter.
well,
Yes.
let me say something real quick. Let me say something. The main C was not those top three, but the main C is the communication. Because how y'all explain why y'all checking out those things, I'm like, okay, understand that. The biggest issue that we're having, just as a community, we're not communicating that. If ladies, just as you just did, and just say, well, it's not so much about the crib, but more about, the man taking care of some stuff. We need to hear that. Because the first thing men will hear is, oh, she just wants the money. That's just what we hear. So that's a communication issue. That's the biggest thing. That's why, to me, it's the most important. Communication, communication, communication. I do a lot of consultations with men and women, and it's always the communication part. Now, the way you explain, I'm like, oh, okay. She just want to make sure I'm a responsible man, which is reasonable. There's nothing wrong with that. He should be, especially a man in his 50s. He should, no matter what he's gone through, he should have some level of sovereignty. I preach that to men all the time. So that's reasonable, but we need to we need to communicate that. So we need to have these conversations like this. So it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because if we hear that any place else, we're like, oh, she just a gold digger. Oh, she just care about that. You know what? I'm gonna pick her up in the hoopty just to see what's up.
First of
Well,
all, please impress me.
Ron, will you come back?
Yeah, sure. You know, you gotta let me know like weeks in
You know, I'm gonna give you thing. Malik, of course. Malik, I'm gonna give you the final word because I love what you say. Go ahead.
I kind of was lost in what Ron was saying, but I mean, yes. Now that you've kind of expounded on the topic, I definitely agree with just vetting individuals to see if they're responsible and they're honest. But I will still cling to the fact that there are better ways to vet people.
Yeah,
and I think women need to be honest with themselves, because sometimes you might gravitate to something because it fills an emotional void or a mental connection, and you initially will ignore the things that you know you really want.
Well, let's talk more about that in the after party.
We're gonna take it to the after party. Y'all meet us in the after party. The link is in the group. We will see y'all next week. Our final show is about aesthetic and style of your partner, and are you still turned on? That should be good. That's gonna be a fun one. We'll talk to y'all because we got Miss Fashion Deja Sunshine. I'm gonna have her kind of lead that conversation. So let's go. See y'all in the after party. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for all the comments, and we'll see y'all next week. Take care.
Bye.
Join Stacked After Hours, The Spot, where grown men and women gather to have candid, also honest discussions about the state of life, love, and more. The Spot is a hybrid of in-person and weekly virtual gatherings. Join our Facebook group and answer our daily questions. Subscribe to our YouTube for our weekly live talk shows, and join us on Zoom for our talk show after parties for lively conversations with other opinionated, grown, and sexy professionals. Just search, like, follow, and subscribe to Stack After Hours on Facebook groups and YouTube. Also like and follow our brand pages at Be Stacked Wellness on Facebook and IG. So wherever you are, at home or abroad, pull out your laptop, tablet, or smartphone and join in the conversation with the members of Stacked After Hours, The Spot by Be Stacked Wellness. See you there.
As you know, and if you are new to the Stacked family, we always keep our conversations lit and enlightening.